Tonight, a new book is sending shockwaves through the political world. The curtain finally being pulled back on the devastating details behind the Clinton campaign's crippling dysfunction as it is laid out in this book. It turned into a historic defeat, as we all now know, but at the time, nobody knew. Inside this expose, dramatic new election night details revealed as President Trump's victory began to emerge over the course of the evening. Even the former president himself pleaded with Team Clinton to not, quote, drag it out. And amid excruciating shock, Chair John Podesta did exactly that.
I know you've been here a long time, and it's been a long night, and it's been a long campaign. But I could say we can wait a little longer, can't we? We're still counting votes, and every vote should count. We will be back. We'll have more to say.
Tactics to delay reality irked President Obama, who then called Hillary Clinton, reportedly demanding, quote, you need to concede. Clinton surrendered with a phone call to her arch rival and would then, according to the book, go on to tell President Obama, I'm sorry for losing to Donald Trump.
I've just received a call from Secretary Clinton. She congratulated us, it's about us, on our victory. And I congratulated her and her family on a very, very hard-fought campaign.
The concession moment that no one saw coming was not delivered until several hours later.
Last night, I congratulated Donald Trump and offered to work with him on behalf of our country. I hope that he will be a successful president for all Americans. I know we have still not shattered that highest and hardest glass ceiling, but someday someone will, and hopefully sooner than we might think right now.
Joining me now, the authors of the new book that everybody is talking about today, Shattered Inside Hillary Clinton's Doom Campaign. Jonathan Allen is a columnist at Roll Call, and Amy Parnes is the senior White House correspondent for The Hill. Welcome to both of you. Congratulations. It's a fascinating read. And I guess I want to start, Jonathan, with the moment that Podesta came out, because to say that this was the most shocking presidential history moment, I think, is not to underestimate what we all watched that night. It was absolutely topsy-turvy, shocking, crazy. Nobody imagined it.
And nobody's jaw was closer to the floor than Hillary Clinton's. I mean, she was completely taken by surprise. She believed she was going to win the presidency, as our sources told us for this book. That set of events that you just recounted, the slow realization that she was going to lose, then a series of phone calls with the president, with Donald Trump, with the president again. This was really an amazing moment in American history, and one that was unexpected, I think, not only by the Clinton camp, but certainly by the Democratic Party. And I think a lot of people in the Republican Party were surprised, many happily surprised.
Everybody was. She talked about wanting to make a gracious exit, Amy, and we have the quote from your book on the screen. She said, because there was a debate going on about what her tone should be, and there's the quote on the screen. Tell us about this moment.
So there were a couple of different sides kind of going against each other. One side was basically, let's get out, and basically say, this is the guy she had been attacking for so long. A lot of people really wanted her to go out there and attack him again and say, we're going to stand up to him, and this isn't our guy. He's like the opposite of what we want. And then there was the side that basically said, we need to go in there and be gracious and basically explain to people like the path forward and that we need to support him and move on. So there were two kind of competing factions in that room. We saw what eventually played out. She was pretty gracious and talked about the big picture and talked. Yeah, and it was one of her best speeches, actually, arguably. And she rises to those moments, to those occasions, and I think she did that.
She certainly did.
Yeah.
There's another revealing moment when she says, and we can put this one up, I don't understand, this is during the course of the campaign, I don't understand what's happening with the country. I can't get my arms around it. Boy, that really puts it right on the head, huh?
Absolutely. What you saw in the Democratic primary was Bernie Sanders really tapping into a vein of populism. You saw it on the Republican side with Donald Trump. There were times in both the primary and the general election where Hillary Clinton was simply confused as to what was going on. And when I say confused, I mean she just didn't get what was going on in the country. She just didn't get what people were feeling, why they were so angry at the establishment. This is somebody who, throughout her career, has believed in the establishment, believed that you make big change through the existing system. And for her, it was too much to comprehend in a lot of ways, what the public was wanting, which was a little bit of a disruptor, I think.
Yeah. What was the Clinton campaign's reaction to the enormous crowds that were coming out? And also talk about Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania, because they didn't go there, and they were afraid that they were going to telegraph each other's moves a bit at the end, right?
Right. Yeah, it's funny because as we talk about in the book, she had a tense moment right after the Michigan primary where she really wanted to know what was happening, and she was like, we're not really getting at our message. We're kind of tiptoeing around it. We need to do a better job of doing this. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but this is her sentiment. And she's really confused about why she lost there. And that was sort of a red flag going in. She needed, to kind of learn that lesson. And for whatever reason, she didn't, and inevitably lost Michigan and Wisconsin. But I think, she, like John said, she really wasn't concerned about, she didn't get the populism that was kind of, surrounding her, developing around her. So I think she saw the crowd size, but she felt like she had the party behind her. She had the financial backing of people. She had the surrogates, the star power. She felt like all the stars were aligned. So, I think they never saw this coming.
And some of those Midwestern states, particularly in Michigan and a bit in Wisconsin, her campaign believed that if more people knew about the election, it would hurt her. So for one of the reasons that they said that they didn't spend as much time there, didn't send her as much. In fact, she never set foot in Wisconsin in this campaign, was the idea that she would actually create a backlash for herself if more people were aware of the election. I think it's hard to play that out in part because.
But they'd already found those voters, is what we now know, right?
Right, and one of the issues for her was she abandoned persuasion. Her team decided that it was better to try to turn out Democrats than try to convince people on the fence or loosely affiliated Republicans to vote for her.
And that was exactly what Donald Trump was doing. I want to end with one question, because when you talk to the campaign members now, they firmly believe that James Comey stole this election from Hillary Clinton and that the Russians threw this election towards Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. And she believes that, too, and has said it in recent days. But as John and I report in this book, it's so much more complicated than that. There was infighting going on at the toppest levels, at the very top levels. There was, her message was off. We detail in this book play-by-play of how her opening kickoff speech was a mess from the very beginning. They couldn't quite nail the message. Their message was all over the place. They had 20 people working on the speech, which is pretty rare in politics. You usually have a speechwriter and the principal. So, we detail that there were problems all over the campaign, and it's very easy. Of course, Comey and Russia obviously had an impact on this, but it was so much worse than that for them.
And if I could throw three ideas in the mix here, one thing they don't talk about is the notices of Obamacare premium spikes that were going around, which I think I think were a huge issue, and actually Republicans started seeing their numbers track up in these important swing states right before the Comey letter came out, which we report in the book. Number two, the Comey letter is related to the email scandal in the first place, and while the FBI didn't find that there was a prosecutable offense, I don't think there are very many people who would make the argument that what she did was what you would hope that a Secretary of State or a president would do. And number three, in terms of Russia, we knew that the intelligence agencies had said that Russians were trying to interfere in the elections and were involved in that DNC WikiLeaks dump. Yeah. And she made that case in debates, and that didn't turn enough votes in enough places for her to win the election.
Yeah. And a tease for your book is that what Bill Clinton was saying all along is quite fascinating as well. So read it. The book is called Shattered. Thank you so much, you guys. Great to have both of you here. Good luck with it, Amy and John. Good to see you both.